Hey folks, Frank the Pestgeek here. Well, it's been a while since I've done a lawn chair chronicle. Been a couple of months, mainly because I've been busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. And I lost the tech, as you know. For those of you that follow me, it takes forever to refine and hire. And I was having to go out on the road for about 5-6 months since July of last year. Hired one tech, that didn't work out. I had another two lined up, that didn't work out. Finally, I've got one. As of January 1st, I got a new technician to replace the old one, and my other tech is busier also than a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest. He couldn't handle it anymore, so I had to go out, run routes. This is the reality of being a micro business owner post COVID, where you don't have a training center, you don't have a training manager, you don't have service managers, you don't have basically a whole level of management. It's just you and three guys, and now it's four of us in the company. So it's tough. I mean, I'm here I'm gonna smoke today for you. I really found this one. This is a neat little cigar. It's an Arturo Fuente rare pink. So I'm gonna pair it. Yes. Yes, but be back here by in an hour. 5:30? In an hour. So pairing it with a Zacapa 23 rum, which is one of my favorite rums next to probably Dos Maderas. If you've never tried a Dos Maderas rum, it's a very not popular rum. It's not that big of a brand, but it is I'm going to cut this right around there. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah, it draws great on this. I'm going to get the label off because it's kind of a small, this is, probably, if I squeeze it, I can probably get it maybe an hour out of it, 30, 40 minutes. Probably not going to be an extensively long podcast, but thought I'd give you guys an update of some real life things. So when you're a micro company like ours, where we still haven't grown to the point where we have service managers and 15 levels of management, you're still wearing a lot of hats. Right now, last year, I set some goals for myself. We met out of the 5 big goals that we had, we accomplished 3 of them, which is pretty good. I'd rather accomplish, 50% to 3/4% of big goals than to not have any big goals and stay in the same place. So what people don't do is they don't talk about their big goals. They've learned not to say anything because you got to be careful who you tell them to. And if you don't succeed and you only get 3 of them done, everybody makes you sound like you're a failure. Well, I like to ask them how many big goals did they accomplish in their year, and they had none because they're afraid to fail. So again, it all comes down to, let's take a look at this, see where this is at. Oh, great. What happened to my lighter? My lighter, something going on with it? Am I going to be able to light a cigar today? Yeah, probably going to need a new lighter soon. I got 3 of these. Why? Why are you having such an issue, dude? I'm telling you, nothing ever goes. Well, daggone it. I'm telling you, folks, nothing ever goes according to plan. Murphy rides with me. And let me see here. Yeah, it's firing. I can see the little spark. Well, daggone it. I'm going to have to get inside and get a new lighter. Hold on. I'll edit this out in a minute. Okay. I'm back. So I ended up having to get my girl's lighter. She got this cute little for herself because, she enjoys cigars with me. And she likes her own lighter. So let's see how this thing does. Oh, yeah. Let's light that bad boy up. It's a single torch cigar lighter, not big fancy, but it'll probably do the job. Long ashes to you guys for hanging out with me today. Yeah. Oh, it's a nice cigar. It's pricey, but why not? I've worked my butt off this week. I think a little indulgence and man, I remember when I started smoking cigars, I couldn't afford anything over $3, and later I moved up to a little better cigar. And I found that most cigars that I like now are somewhere within the $8 to $13 range. I still smoke some $3 to $4 cigars. I have like daily cigars that I smoke if I want one during the week. I rarely smoke cigars during the week. It's Friday night. It's our new thing now, where it used to be I would smoke out here by myself and do podcasts, and now me and her sit out here on a Friday after a long week, and we unwind for 4 or 5, 6 hours talking and chatting about what went on during the week. That's my fiance. If you haven't met Ermi, you haven't seen pictures of her. She's, plastered all over every Friday when we smoke cigars. And she happens to like cigars, and I met a woman that likes cigars. I don't know how I was going to deal with a woman that hated cigars. God loves me so much. So anyway, that's been, the last 6 months of reality. I finally got, we're going to get our termite license this year. I got that accomplished. That was on our big, hairy, getting somebody to sign off for us for our training. It took me 6 months to find someone. And I know so many people. But there are those people that, will tell you, yeah, bro, I'm with you. I'll help you. Anything you need, bro, you let me know. And then you call them for something like, bro, you understand. I'm right now I can't. And, all right, bro, no worries. I'm like a mobster. I'm like Roth in The Godfather, I think, too, when they're in Cuba and Michael Corleone is sitting there, and Roth just lays it on the line for him. Look, tomorrow, if I have a briefcase here with $1 million, I know I have a partner. And if I don't, I know I don't. It's very simple. If I ask you for something and you give me excuses, I don't need to keep asking you. You either say yes or no. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. If somebody calls me, sends me a message and says, hey, man, I need help, I need counseling, I need consulting, I need this, it's either a yes or a no, I can't. It's very simple with me. Or, hey, I'll put you on my calendar for next week at 10 a.m. in the morning, and we'll have a meeting. And I have a select group of people, like a handful, literally, that I can count on one hand, that I'm going to take their call every single time, and I'm going to help them. And we've developed close relationships. But I just can't help everybody. That's the reality. I can't answer everybody's questions. I can't do everything everybody would like. So, we're doing a ton of consulting right now. I'm probably doing, maybe 2 to 3 consultations a week. We launched the Academy. I launched it with the recordings that we had. So we've got, for those of you who want a MAR protocol on how we actually deal with German roaches, we set up our German roach course for people. People ask me all the time, how do you do German roaches in an eco-friendly manner? How do you do IPM? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I got to keep answering them, and I send them to my YouTube channel, and then they have to look through 30 videos to figure out what they are. And I've got, on Pestgeek alone, we just hit our 700 video on Pestgeek alone this month. And I can't even remember now how many I have on our Nature Pest channel, which a lot of people follow us there. So I put together a really good course with a lot of bonus material of all the pitfalls and everything you're going to ever run into dealing with German roaches and doing them in an eco-friendly manner using our protocol. So what I'm doing is I'm sharing with everyone in the world that wants it our protocols to do everything. Yes, I'm charging for those, but it's reasonable. I mean, if I charge you $99 for my course and you can't turn that into $9,999 within a year, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, really, I give you an entire protocol on how to do everything from start to finish, where you don't even have to question it. It works because German roaches are German roaches. They haven't changed their biology. A house is a house, a kitchen is a kitchen, a bathroom is a bathroom. It doesn't change. We started out doing our SEO mastermind because I've had so many issues myself in the last 5 years hiring SEO people, try to hand it off, that I finally decided 2 years ago that we're going to just do it in-house. We're not going to hire anybody to do anything. So I hired a part-time guy at the time, Eric. For those of you that know, Eric is my producer. He does all of our social media, all of our videos, all of our sharing of those videos, all the SEO on those videos. I'm still handling on-page stuff because on-page and social media are two different animals. They're not the same discipline. So I handed off 50% of that. So my job right now in the company is really, I'm the CEO who's also the chief financial officer, because I don't have anybody doing the bookkeeping, the finances. I do all that myself. My accountant loves me. I mean, I spend maybe 30 minutes a month doing bookkeeping. Everything is automated with QuickBooks. I show up at the end of the year. Payroll takes me 10 minutes to do with Gusto. For those of you asking me, who do you use for payroll? Bro, we use Gusto. We've been using Gusto for the last 6 years. We've never had an issue with them. I had an enormous amount of issues with QuickBooks before with payroll, which cost me some garnishings and things like that where they messed it up. And I went with Gusto. I switched, never had an issue. It takes me 10 minutes to do payroll. They file everything for me. They file my quarterlies. They file my annualities. They file my W-2s. They send it to the employees. It's direct deposit. $64 a month, I think I pay for the software, plus $6 per employee. It's peanuts compared to ADP and compared to Paychecks and compared to all these people. And you don't have an issue. Super simple. They're kind of like the Apple of payroll, where they make it so simple it's stupid. QuickBooks Online, everything is automated with our accounts. All I got to do is like, yep. I know what I paid for that. I know what I paid for that. Yeah. Done. At the end of the year, my Pest routes is connected to my QuickBooks, so everything gets imported, all the income, it's all in there. And 10 minutes a month, I do my QuickBooks, and I send it to my accountant once a year, and I show up with W-2s for everybody, the W-2 for the company, the payroll, and I show up with a P&L. And he's like, bro, I wish everybody was like this. I've been dealing with my same accountant for almost 20 years now. He knows my business. He knows me. He knows what I'm about. I get my consulting with him once a year, where we do tax strategy once a year, and we're done in an hour. Automate everything. I'm the chief financial officer. I know where all my money is. I know where my KPIs are. You know, I've been doing some consulting. That leads me into this, because I've been doing a lot of consulting. I've probably done in the last month, not many, probably about 6 consultations on just business and people who are struggling with their business, not understanding. And in every single case, including, this goes for marketing, this goes for SEO, this goes for sales, this goes for everything. They're tracking nothing. And I ask them, how many calls do you get from your ads? I don't know. Bottom line, I'm just giving you bottom lines. I don't know. How any calls are you getting from your GMB? I don't know. How many forms are being filled out on your site on a monthly basis? I don't know. If you're doing ads, are they doing A/B split testing on the ads? I don't know. What do you consider a conversion, and how are you tracking your conversions? Do you have call numbers to track your conversions? I don't know. Basically, they know nothing about anything anybody's doing other than how many jobs they schedule, how much they collect, because they're usually on top of their collections, and how much money they think they're making in revenue on a monthly basis. When I ask them how much you do on a monthly basis, this month, last month, the last 90 days, I don't know. So the challenge that I see, the biggest challenge that I see for solo people who jumped off a truck, went into becoming self-employed, to be solo operators, and then they want marketing plans. They want to have a scaling operation. They want to have this. What I figure out, they have no foundation to do anything to grow. And they want to grow. They don't know anything about KPIs and what they're tracking. Why? Because tracking takes time, and they're already working 50, 60 hours a week. And they don't have the time nor the knowledge of how to track. So my biggest advice to you is you can't hire an ad agency to spend $2,000 of your money on a monthly basis, not telling you how that ad is performing, not telling you, where is the A/B split testing that was done on these ads to show which ads are better. The ads have no bite. I'm finding ads where it just shows up, hey, pest control in Miami, whatever. And that's it. There is nothing compelling about that ad to cause me to click on it and call you and buy from you, because there's no irresistible offer. The ads are showing up at the bottom of the page, where people have to scroll to the top 10 to get to you, because you have no idea. So no A/B split testing, no KPIs. They have no idea how many calls they're getting from that ad, and how many negative keywords are being targeted, who's modifying the keywords, what keywords are they targeting, and they're basically spending $1,000 a month. And I said, are you getting any return? The adage that in the advertising industry that was coined, we know that 50% of our ads are producing the result. But the problem is we don't know which 50%. There's ways to track it, folks, but you got to sit there with the end in mind. And I know that I tell this and people tell you this, but they don't tell you how. Everybody's telling you the what. Nobody's showing you the how. It is your responsibility to go and spend the time and learn the how. So when I tell you that I'm selling you a course on the how, but it's going to be a 12-week course for 12 hours, and it's going to cost you $300, you're like, oh my God, I don't have 12 hours in the next 12 weeks. I don't have $200. And then you're sitting there asking people, how do you do things? But you're not willing to spend the time or the money to learn how to do it and what your job is. Understand this, that you're the CEO of your company, but you're also wearing the hat of the chief financial officer. You're also wearing the hat of the chief marketing officer. You're also wearing the hat of the VP of sales, the general manager, the branch manager, the district manager, the service manager. You're the CSR, and you're wearing so many hats that when it comes down to, like, I've taken off so many hats. What my goal is, what hat can I take off? And sometimes I can't take the whole hat off. What I find, the second thing, the biggest danger is they don't know where their numbers are. They don't know how to track. They're not holding people responsible because they have no idea what they're supposed to be holding them responsible for. So now you hire a technician and you have no KPIs for that technician. You hire an SEO agency and you have no idea what they're supposed to be doing because they give you a vanity report that says, we did 3 blog posts and here's the title. Well, what keywords did you target? What was the purpose and the strategy of doing those blog posts? Was it to build trust and domain authority and show relevance in the market? Or is it to get calls? Is it to rank them number 1 on Google? Because you can't rank a blog number 1 on Google when you have no domain authority. And this is a third-party metric. I get it, Moz metric. But at the end of the day, it's a valid metric because the algorithms that went into that do really dictate how well you're going to rank in the market. So the fact that I can write a blog for a keyword and have it rank number 1 on Google in 90 days with doing no push, I'm doing no CTR, click-through rate manipulation, I'm doing no press releases for that blog, I'm sending no backlinks to that blog, and it will rank number 1 for the target keyword I want, which is usually a high, medium to high rankings because I have a domain authority of 23. When I analyze most sites, they're at 0 to 3, 4, 5, 6 if they're lucky. I have 1,800 referring domains, which I forget at 15,000 backlinks to my site. All organic, by the way. I earned them all. I've never paid really for a backlink. But that took 10 years for me to get there. People think they're going to get there with the BS that SEO agency are selling them, that for $600 a month, we're going to rank your site. It's going to take 10 years. Rather than saying, let me create a strategy. No, they didn't sit down with a consultant that is a real consultant, like what I'm doing with my people, my followers, my listeners, and saying, look, I will give you an hour consultation to come up with a strategy for you based on your market, based on the population, based on your competition, based on all this, and assess your risk and tell you what it's really going to take if you really want to do this before you go spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and not get any results. I would rather charge you $250, $259, $359, however long it's going to take for me to do this for you, and give you a strategy. But they don't. They rely on the salesperson that his only vested interest in that client is getting a commission. That's it. And the fact that most SEO agencies have no contracts for a reason. You can't sue them. Because they have no contract. You got nothing in writing and they're never going to sign a contract, because I can't guarantee you as an SEO agency that I can get you ranked unless I have a bunch of things in line to manipulate a bunch of things and get you ranked. The only thing I can do as an SEO agency, I've optimized your GMB correctly. I've optimized your YouTube channel correctly. I've optimized all of your social media channels correctly. I've optimized your website correctly. How much content can you afford to put on in the marketplace is a totally different question than is it SEO'd correctly? And what I find is you have bad GMBs, bad social media branding and marketing. It's not even done right. Your YouTube channels are not SEO correctly. Websites are not designed for SEO. They're designed as information pages to drive traffic from ads and create landing pages. And the landing pages are not even there. Basically, you have a glorified catalog. So when I'm doing all of these analysis for people who are taking my course now on a weekly basis, I'm doing a live teaching where they can ask questions live. It's pre-recorded, and then it's put onto our platform for our LMS, where we're using for that you can subscribe and then watch it at your own leisure. But if you want questions answered, I'm only doing it live. Why? Because I can't take calls and questions from everybody on a weekly basis and then start answering them. I'm too busy. So what do? I accumulate all the questions. You want to email them to me, you want to message them to me, that's fine. I put them in one place and then I answer all those questions live when I'm doing my webinar on SEO and how to do your own SEO, and at least how to know all of the key aspects of SEO, so that when you sit down with an SEO agency and you start asking those pointed questions and you're going to get, and you back them up against the wall, now you're going to have the truth that they can't do what they say they can promise. Because now you're armed with information, but you're going to have to put in the time for at least 10 to 12 hours with me so I can show you all this. So that's number 2. They don't know where their numbers are. They don't know how to track it. I got one guy send me a report of all the keywords they rank, all the blogs, and they rank number 1, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm going, he's not ranking anywhere on the GMB, 0. He's number 20 plus on the GMB. So how can you be doing all this blogging and all this stuff that an SEO company charges you $600 and not even rank on the GMB? Why aren't you focused on a hyper-local strategy instead of targeting an entire city with 1 million people? You don't have the budget. You don't have the bandwidth. You don't have the time to track it. Why don't you do simple? Hyper-local SEO. Build your brand starting here within 5 miles. Work your way outward to the other cities so that you create at the same thing. You're creating route density You're spending less time. You can be competitive on the pricing in this area where you can outprice your competition and still be more profitable. Your ROI is going to take less time to get. And you're going to be able to manage that money a little better because it's more affordable for you than spending $600-700 a month for getting 4 blog posts written, and your web domain authority has been 0. Your amount of traffic clicks that you get is like 40 clicks a month if you're lucky. And yes, you have a bunch of impressions, and the impressions are growing, which is important metric in SEO. But I just took on it, and I'm doing a case study with one client that we're using for this class to show. And already he's getting calls. In less than a month, I've doubled and tripled his calls just in this case study, showing that he doesn't need to target everywhere. They're all around him. He's creating route density where he was traveling 30, 40 minutes to one client to charge him $159 for an initial, and then tell me that the client doesn't want to stay with them because he doesn't have contracts. And I've been talking about route density from day one. Go back 10 years, listen to my podcast. It's more important. Why do I get to do all the things I get to do with not having 5, 6, 7 technicians producing $150,000 each with all those headaches? Because my prices are high. I focus on route density. I focus on upselling. I focus on high price ticket items, customers that can afford me, and I don't have to kill myself doing all this. Now, that's not to say there's no problems. That's not to say there's not a bunch of headaches. When you own a business, there's going to be a bunch of headaches. But I'd rather have my headaches making the money I make than the headaches you have every month, not having enough money to hire. You're a slave to your route. You don't raise your prices. Everybody I've talked to has never raised. I've done, I think, 30 consultations in the last 90 days. And nobody's raised their prices. Nobody knows where their money is. Nobody knows how their route density is. They're going all over the place and going all over God's creation. They're working 50, 60 hours a week, and they pretty much have nothing to show for it other than they're no longer working for a company that treated them bad. At least that's some consolation. I just did a consultation for a guy who posted in a group that he needed a mentor. And I said, look, he just started out 6 months ago. I just did the consultation with him for an hour. In 1 hour, I gave him more strategy and more tactics than he's had being on all the groups forever. I did. And the beauty of this guy is that he started 6 months ago, and he decided to start doing residential work because he thought it would be easier and more money producing. When the fact is that he spent 14 years of his life working for a company that specialized in high-end commercial. You probably can guess who that company is. It was sold to a mega brand. It became a mega company, sold to a mega brand. I won't drop names. And he was a regional manager. He worked his way up all the way to becoming a branch manager for another company later. The guy understands management. The guy understands how to treat people. He understands how to get them to perform. He understands all this. He can sell. But here is where I nailed him to the wall on this. I said, here's the problem. How good are you? I went after this throat because he already had all that experience. I don't need to cover that. I don't need to waste time discussing that. He's having trouble, and then he hired Thumbtack, and he did LSI ads, and he did local service ads, and he's doing all of this. He's doing Angie, and all of a sudden he gets a lot of calls, and then he says it all dropped off. I get nothing. I'm paying for all this, and I'm getting nothing. I had to cancel it. Why? Because all of a sudden they'll put a lot of money into that market to boost it, to get you excited, and say, if this is the way it's going to be every day, this is wonderful. And then all of a sudden it drops. LSA ads, what I'm learning from talking to a bunch of people, is that the secret to LSA ads when they drop, especially when you don't have a big budget and you're competing with all these guys, is you drop the ads. The moment they tank, You drop the ads, cancel them for 30 days, and then reactivate them. And they boosts it again. And that's the game you have to play. But it shouldn't be like that. I know you want, in an ideal world, in a perfect circumstance, everybody's morality and everybody's integrity to be just like yours. It's never going to happen. These large companies don't do that. It doesn't really matter. You got to, I tell you, you got to work you got to learn how the game is played and then play the game. You got to learn to work the system to get the system to work for you in everything that you do. So what I said is, how good are you at prospecting? And he just looked at me and like, not good at all. Why? Because when you work for larger companies and you're a salesperson for a large company, the way it's always done is they provide leads for you. And then you got a warm lead that you go into these houses, people called wanting to know about your service. They invited you in, they're more open, and you can close 50% or more of these transactions if your pricing is within line. When you have to do cold calling, cold leads, cold marketing, most people have no idea how to prospect. So I said, why are you wasting your time with residential clients when that's not your expertise? And let me ask you a question. You work for all these large brands. What's your USP? I don't have one. I said, wait a minute. You mean you have a specialty? Because people, like, they close themselves off to their own thing. They don't get to see my job as a coach is to bring out what's already in you. I can't, as a mentor, it's looking at the big picture. As a coach is, hey, look, these are your skill sets and you need to capitalize on these skill sets. As a trainer, it's here's the step-by-step, here's the tactics. So I have to go from long-term vision and strategy as a mentor every 3 months saying, okay, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? Okay, I would be going after that type of market now. But that's not a tactic. That's an idea of where you should be. Then as a coach is, hey, bro, I think you need to leverage this. Then as a trainer is, here's how you do it step by step. And depending on where that person, what I find is with the guy that jumps off the truck, he needs training in sales. He needs training in marketing. He needs training in business management. He doesn't even know how to read a P&L. He doesn't know anything about KPIs and SOPs. It's an enormous amount of training that has to be done with that guy who never led and managed a team, who never hired, who never managed a territory, who never was a service manager. He was a tech. And the reason he didn't do that is because he didn't see the value in doing that. I got stung by a mosquito and it's annoying me. Here I am, a pest guy, getting bitten by a mosquito. You see, and he goes and now he's self-employed and then he says, I'm an entrepreneur. You're not an entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a micro business owner. You realize that about 78% of small businesses in America, 78%, roughly 80%, this is where the 80-20 rule comes in, have less than 4 employees. The idea that you're going to listen to the next become business millionaire, home service millionaire, pest control millionaire, only 6% of small businesses in America ever make it to $1 million. 94% are under $1 million, with the great majority being under 500,000. Why? Because they're technicians turned self-employed, and you went from being self-employed, really you went to being unemployed and then having to go out and interview every day for a job. The thing is, you need 500 bosses to make it. People don't look at this. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying that the amount of training that has to be done and the amount of hand-holding that has to be done to train people is longer, and it requires a lot more money and investment on their part, which they don't have anyway. This is why you can't get a coach, why you can't get a mentor, why you can't get training, because you need to spend the time and the money learning those things, and you don't see the value of those things. You're saying that's corporate nonsense, corporate BS. And then after a year of being in business, working 60 hours a week to only produce $150,000 and take home less than $50,000 a year, they get it. It isn't until they hit the wall that they get it. So I took half of my marketing hat off and gave it to Eric. I don't have a technician hat. Right now, I'm going in the field 1 day a week. Only. I book all my clients 1 day a week. Like I got to go do a big pitch to a city that called me. That's my job. I'm right now, my biggest hat is sales and marketing. Why? Because I really don't have to do a whole lot of management with my people. Because of the way I train and the way I hire, which people might not agree with me, I don't care because I know it works. I know it's worked for me. My goal is, how do I grow now and grow more and keep growing? So once we add termite, that will probably add about $150,000 a year in revenue, where I don't have to hire another technician for a while, or I might have to hire another technician, take off my lead technician, because I really want my lead technician to get up. Because I'm pushing him because he's hungry, because he loves to learn, because he loves to take on challenges, because he likes to do the new thing. He's like me when I was younger. He just doesn't have all the skill sets that I have. So he's like my protege. He works 40 hours a week and brings home over $50,000 in Miami. Unheard of for a lot of people. He has no complaints. Everybody loves him. I don't have to worry about this guy. My new guy, hungry, older. He's actually a year older than me. Just got here from Cuba not too long ago, but he was here before. He understands. How do you do it with people that don't know English? It's very easy. I translate everything for them. I teach them everything. I teach him how to do everything. And I don't need him to learn. How is he going to read the labels? Very easily. I translate those labels. I tell him, you don't do this, you don't do that. Here's the PPE. Here's what you have to do on this label. And he does it. And if you think you can't be done, everybody in Miami is doing it. I got guys who open up their truck and the only thing that's back there is a bottle of Bifin. And they got three trucks on the road with nothing more than a power sprayer, a B&G, and a bottle of Bifin. Everybody gets Bifin. It doesn't matter what the hell the problem is. You get Bifin. I mean, this is Miami. This is the way it is in big cities, in big giant cities. I talk on a monthly basis to at least somebody in a major market. And all the calls I get, turns out, here's the funny part about this one. I'm tracking all my calls. What market are you in? They're in a large metro market. And the problem is they can't compete in those markets. That's the reason they're calling me. The reason their SEO for $600 a month, some of them are paying $2,000 a month, isn't working, is because you're in a large metro market like Dallas, like New York, like the Miami Metro, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach market. You think you're going to be competitive. And this is why I'm pushing everybody to a hyper-local strategy. I'm actually going to write up a course, because what I find is the pain points. What I find is, what is everybody fighting with? And what are the common denominators I keep having in every consultation I'm doing? And it's that you're usually in major markets and you need a hyper-local strategy. You need a hyper-local marketing strategy. You don't need this elaborate bunch of crap that everybody's telling you. Yes, when you deal with, when these guys are giving advice, remember that they may have 10 technicians. And the way they run their company with 10 technicians is totally different than what you can do when you're hiring your first one. My audience is primarily independent solo operators who have 2 to 3 people, or the technician that's in a truck looking to jump ship, or the technician that nobody's training. That's who my audience is. Now, When am I talking to people that take a bunch of these courses? Yeah, Frank, it's wonderful, all the stuff they're telling me. It's kind of like if I do a pest control conference for homeowners and I talk to them like I talk to the industry, bro, he sure knows a lot about bugs. Too bad I don't understand anything he's saying. I get criticized for my videos. Roaches don't have poop. I understand, but I'm talking to a homeowner. I'm not talking to the industry. When I do a Pestgeek Podcast video, it's different than when I do one for a homeowner. I have to speak their language. When I'm doing keyword research, I'm doing keyword research on their language. I don't care if the keyword doesn't make sense to you because it's grammatically incorrect. I am Mr. Grammatically Incorrect. I'm Mr. Inappropriate. So I'm doing these consultations. I just did an audit research, and the guy sends me, like I said, all these bunch of keywords. Now I got to sit with him. The problem is he wants to talk more about what he's doing than listen to me about what I'm going to tell him. So when I charge you $159 an hour, I'm no longer giving my time to you. If you don't listen to me, that's on you, bro. Not skin off my back. Because if I can compete in the 6th largest market in the country, it varies with Miami. And I said, I can show you what I do here in Miami. It's going to take me 3 to 4x more than what you have to do in your market. If I can pull everything I've been able to pull off in Miami, everybody said it can't be done. My market is a test. My company is a guinea pig. My company is a laboratory. My company everything I do is to prove people wrong, because if I can do it here, I can duplicate it anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, pretty much. That's always been my strategy. Because at the end of the day, I'm a trainer, I'm a teacher, I'm learning to coach, and now I'm learning to mentor people. And that's where we're going as the podcast, as my company, as part of my brand, part of what I do. And everybody that I show my technique, man, it's amazing. This is all I do. What I've seen you do. And it changed my business, it changed my perspective. You have to have a paradigm shift. Folks, there has to be a paradigm shift in thinking in order to change what you do. You first have to change what you think. You can't tell me, yeah, but when I tell you to do something, because I know it will work, because it's been tested to death, because you're not willing to change your mind. That's what's been happening, So people call me and say, bro, can you do an audit on my site? I'm going to do a free video next week. It's going to come out. Eric is going to put this out like yesterday. This is Sunday. I think we're the 13th of January. Eric is going to put this out. And by this week coming up, there will be a free video on how to do a preliminary audit on your site, on your GMB, on your SEO, to see where your SEO is. This guy's been paying a company 6 months. He's still number 59 and number 99 for the target keywords on Google. He's never going to get to number 1. He's not going to get on the top page for the next 3 years. And by then, with the amount of AI going out and the amount of companies just putting out so much traffic, so much content, Google is actually limiting who it favors. And if you don't have high domain, this is the chicken and the egg problem. How do I get experience if nobody will hire me? You say you need someone with experience. Well, how do I get the experience if nobody will hire me? How do you get domain authority when Google is going to crawl your site? You see? Those are challenges that you are up against you, because all of your competition is taking advantage of the AI in every way. 15 ways they're doing AI, and you're not doing any of it. And the volume that you're doing doesn't keep up with the volume going out. Google is not going to call your site every day. When you discredit because you don't have any domain authority. So an SEO company has to work super hard to build you up in the marketplace as with heat. You know, Google has this thing called heat. And basically it's how much build you up as the authority. In other words, write a bunch of blog posts that aren't going to rank just to push the site up little by little, push it up little by little. And the problem that I have with people is they're saying, I'm getting no calls, I'm getting this. And well, that's not their focus. That wasn't the strategy. You didn't have a conversation about strategy. You said, I want an SEO company to do SEO, and there's a sales rep going, we're your guy. We're going to do SEO for you. With no strategy. You don't even know what you're looking for. This is where I have to now, if you tell me, Frank, I need you to do an audit on my site, I ask you, what am I auditing? Am I auditing your structure? Am I auditing your content? Am I auditing the ability to convert? Am I auditing your internal? Am I auditing your speed? Am I auditing the on-page SEO? Am I auditing the backlinks and the referring domains? Am I auditing your GMB for local? What am I auditing? In order to give you a complete audit and give you a complete picture, think about it this way. Customer calls and says, I need an inspection. Okay, Mr. Customer, what do you need an inspection for? Well, I'm buying a new house and the bank says I need to get an inspection, but they recommend an inspector, but I want to get my own inspector. Usually the customer won't do that. He'll go with what the real estate company recommended. And, you know, that company, all he cares about is a favorable report. Well, guess what? If you hire an SEO agency, your SEO agency to do an audit, he's going to give you a favorable report. He's going to give you what he wants you to see. He's not going to give you everything that's hiding that's wrong. Now, if you get a salesperson on the other end, he says, I'm going to show you everything that's wrong in your site and how your SEO company's failing. And then 6 months later, when you hired him, all those errors are still there and he hasn't fixed anything. It's like ghosting the account. So now do you need a home inspection? Does that home inspection need a termite inspection? Or does that house need a WDO, WDI inspection? Am I going to do a pest control inspection that includes IPM to find out where all the holes are because you called me from a 100-year-old house with a crawl space and all the vents are damaged? But that wasn't included in the termite inspection. That wasn't included in the WDI inspections. You never asked me to evaluate your home for pest control and IPM. Which inspection am I doing? And depending on what inspection the customer wants, it's $300 to $500 for a home inspection. For a termite inspection, usually you will do it for the agent or the home inspector for free because you're hoping to sell and find termites and sell them a termite problem. But now if you find termites, it's not going to be a favorable report. Whose deal are you screwing up? Who's involved? Follow the money. Now, you say, well, I need a WDI inspection. Well, that's different than a termite inspection because that's going to be $75 to $150. How thorough was that inspection? Are you going to go into that crawl space? Or are you just going to stick your head in there and look and say, it looks pretty good. You're going to stick your head in the attic or you're going to crawl that entire attic? How long does it take? 35 minutes, an hour? Or does it take as long as it takes, and it could be 2 to 3 hours, to do a really good WDI inspection? Do you see my point? Why I can't give away a free inspection, a free audit? If you want a non-biased audit of your site, of your GMB, of your links, of everything that has to do with your SEO, where you rank in that marketplace, and you want to say, look, here's the picture, good, bad, or ugly. This is it. This is the truth. Then that takes time. That's going to take about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, plus then a consultation with you of 1 to 2 hours, explaining what those results mean because you're not an SEO expert. And I have to explain it to you in simple terms so that you would understand where you're at. So then I got to charge a minimum of $259 to do this audit. And then when I do the audit, say, look, this is a mess. I'm going to show you, I'm just going to stop here because it's a mess. You need to fire this company, redo the site, redo this. This dog ain't going to hunt, man. I'm just being honest with you. And people are like, oh my God, $259 for an audit. I get a free audit from this website that gives me a free audit. Great, go with them. I don't know what to tell you, bro. But I'm telling you, there's, follow the money. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing audits for people, paid audits. If I were to sell SEO tomorrow, an SEO service, me and Eric are discussing which services, they're going to be a la carte services. I'm not going to charge $3,000 a month and include everything and then make you think you're going to rank within the next 6 months. What we're going to do is sell optimization services and white label services, what they're called in the industry, of certain things. So if you need a press release, we'll do a press release. It will get you backlinks. It will get you directories listings. It will get you all kinds of signals. Do you need CTR? Or do I need to do click-through rate manipulation? I'll sell you that. Do you need me to optimize your GMB so that it's correct? Yeah, we can do that. A la carte. Do you need me to create pages for you? Do you need an entomologically correct page that produces ranks and traffic and potentially clicks and sales? Yes, we can do that. They're going to be a la carte. And it's going to be depending on your strategy that we discuss of what's going to be the best thing for you. And for the time being, the next 6 months, it's hyper local. Within a 5-mile range of you, we're doing nothing but that because that's going to cost about $2,000 to do it right. Oh, but this company says they'll do it for $299 a month. Knock yourself out. So what I do is I evaluate and I give you the good. It's kind of like, look, when you go to the doctor, takes your vitals. Your blood pressure is high. Finds your blood pressure high. Hey, your color isn't too good. You're gained weight, this and that. He takes your vitals. I'm going to do a video next week on how to get your vitals for free. But then how you find something is wrong and you need to dig deeper, you won't be able to have the time to do it. The amount of software we pay for on a monthly basis is somewhere around, for SEO alone, and all the pieces of software we buy to do SEO, we're probably somewhere around $600 to $700 a month in software. It ain't cheap and it ain't free. So you tell me, I got the capability right now of taking on, starting this month, in the middle of the month, we've got the capability of taking on maybe 15 audits a month. That's it. You call me, you want an audit, and I'm booked already for the month, you might have to wait till next month. I can't move on. I'll have to put you on a waiting list. That's how many audits we've been doing. And we've been doing some of these for free for my friends and things to show them what we're capable of. What I know how to do because I've been doing it for 10 years. My experience has cost me over $250,000 in equivalent of learning, getting it wrong, redoing it, doing it right, and ranking and producing the amount of business that we produce for the business that is adequate for us. So it'll be adequate for 99% of my listeners. What I sell is for 99% of my listeners, even 80%. Now, do you have the money to do it? Do you have $600, $700, $800, $900 to throw at this for the next 6 months? Do you understand what we're doing? Because what I'm going to do is these audits, and I'm going to say, look, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly, bro. And I'm not taking you on as a client to do anything for you unless you agree and you understand this is where we're at, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, this is how it's going to be. It's not like when I take on a customer. You got a crawl space, there's no vents, cats, raccoons, rats, roaches are getting in. Unless you close off those vents in the crawl space, I ain't guaranteeing you nothing. As a matter of fact, I won't even take you on as a client until you agree to take and fix this first. And the funny part is they've already had 2 to 3 pest control companies, and they bought the free initial, $49 initial with a 1-year contract, yada, yada, yada. And nobody told them that they need to exclude that, because if they would have told them, they would have lost the sale, because he wasn't going to spend $1,100, $1,200 to fix that problem. Therefore, there's no pest control company on the planet that can give you the control. All the chemical in the world isn't going to stop a pest from entering that home. Same thing with people I'm consulting. Unless you understand that unless you fix these things, and unless you agree to fix these things, and you can see that they're fixed, then nothing is ever going to happen for you. And you have to be able to have the patience and the time, because to clean out an apartment in an apartment building, to clean it out with roaches for one single unit, when I know the top, bottom, and everything on the side is infested in that place because you live in a slumlord, it's not going to take me 2 visits. It's going to take me 6 visits, because roaches, I pull a drawer and there's 27 roaches flying out. And when I tell the customer, I just did one with a friend, I said, look, dude, this is going to cost $2,000 by the time she's done. This lady cannot afford it. Why don't you talk to her? We'll do a documentary on it. We'll record the video, get some publicity from it. We'll do it for free. Give her about $2,000 worth of value. Solve her problem, because she can't afford it. She's never going to afford it. And let's get some publicity out of this and get some goodwill. And let's do this for her. And I'll team up with you. Those are your realities. What I find with solo operators, they got the same problem that most of the clients who they're turning down have, because they can't afford to pay their prices, yet they refuse to do the $49 deals. They refuse because the ROIs, I don't understand if somebody can charge $150 for something that's going to take 3 trips and then charge $45 a month. How are they making money? It's very simple. It's called delayed gratification, meaning they're going to charge $159. They're going to do all the follow-ups for free. There's a 1-year contract with a cancellation. They're going to charge $45 a month. And then after that, they're going to put them on quarterly, and they're going to go out there on a quarterly basis while they're making $45 a month every single month. So they're making average of about $150, $129 to $150 a quarter versus charging $125. And then I got people going, but I don't understand. And here, nobody will pay for that. I'm doing $99 a quarter. And this is why you can't afford anything, because you're priced way under the market. Have you done a market analysis that you called the 20 companies around you, got their pricing, figured out what the average price is, and then price yourself in the medium of that market, either 10% above or 10% below, depending how competitive you want to be? No, I've never done that. Instead, they go to Facebook and ask everybody and their grandmother in a different market, in a different situation, with different skills, different products, different things, what are you guys charging for this? It's irrelevant what anybody else is charging, because the only thing that matters is what is the competition like in your market. And if 20 people are charging X and you have 2 outliers, one charging 65, which is ridiculous, and the other one charging 250, which is super premium, and when you average it all out, it comes out to $148. That's your average price in the market. And that's how you do it. You take 10, 15, 20. I got 60 competitors within 13 miles of me. That's how hyper competitive my market is. When I did that analysis and I had somebody call and price shop my competition, 20 of them ever got back to us. That means 2/3 of people never responded to our phone call. That's where the market is at. The prices I did get is about $148 average, with the median price being $150. So now, for a 5-mile radius, I can kick everybody's butt if I want to, doing $49 initials, because I only have to travel 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes every single day. And then it's a 1-year contract, and there's a $150 cancellation fee. That doesn't include German roaches. German roaches are going to be more. But for the average customer that doesn't have a major problem and wants to sign just a maintenance agreement, and we do an initial our way, I can compete all day long in this market and not bat an eyelash. Why? Because all my expenses are covered. Once all your bills are covered and you don't have to worry about your income, and you have to hire a technician and you got to feed him, you can do this all day long and grow. But you can't do it as long as you have a mentality that says, I have to sell $350, $400 jobs because I have to eat today. And I have to eat next week, and I have to eat. And what I find is no contracts, one-time service. The majority of these guys are dealing with one-time services, and they're getting their butt handed to them with one-time services. Right now, we don't take on any client unless they're willing to commit to a maintenance program. I don't even do rich services in an apartment anymore. I got to that point where it used to be 30% of my business. We're not doing it anymore. Customers that want one-time lawn sprays, we don't do it. You call another company. We are exclusively for customers that want our service, that are looking for what we have because we have a USP, we have a niche, and are wanting to commit to long-term service. Not even a contract, just long-term service. Look, I want a maintenance program. I don't want to deal with this. I make $150,000, $250,000 a year. They're my customer. I understand who my customer is. Now I can do $49 initials on homes, and if 50% of them cancel, who cares? I can finance it now. I couldn't do that 2-3 years ago. You got to put yourself in an economic position that you can have leverage. And having leverage. So now I can grow. Once I get my license, I'll be marketing termites to all my existing clients. Right now I refer it. You see? So those are the things that I want you to focus on. I want you to listen to me. If you want to stay small, at least charge more because they're buying you. Sell it at a super premium. Sell it to 20 to 30% above the going market rate. You'll make 30% more. Why in God's name do I keep talking to people who are solo operators, underpricing themselves? And there isn't that they're bottom feeders. Please don't understand me. Don't misunderstand. We're not talking about the guy that's selling a $59 inside and outside spray service every 2 to 3 months. We're talking about people who are genuinely afraid to charge what they're worth above the market. Yeah. Hey, baby. Above the market when they're selling personalized service. Why are they doing an indoor-outdoor service every month that requires them to make a call? I just had a consultation on this, and I told the guy, look, 3 years ago, you're going to be in that situation. You got to stop that. Calls me. I have 2 technicians now. I'm dying here because I spend all my day on the phone calling people, scheduling, and nobody will answer the call. It's 3-4 calls. So he's making 3 to 4 calls to get the scheduled text, and nobody schedules because it's on their convenience. And I don't have any pest problem. Why am I going to have you over? And I told him, I said, bro, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to bite the bullet. Write a very compelling letter explaining why you will no longer do an interior service every single time, that you're going to be exclusively an outdoor company because 100% of all the insects are outside going in. No insects are inside trying to get out. You're going to be using modern products, create a compelling argument for why you're doing this. Plus, you're going to raise your prices because you're buying all these modern products and you're doing this and you're doing that. And you guarantee it. Understand that you got to sell the guarantee of what people are paying you for, which is pest control. You're not getting paid because they're selling a monthly spray service. You're killing yourself, shooting yourself in the head, talking to a client in vocabulary that says we sell a monthly spray service. When they don't want the monthly spray service, they don't pay you. They don't call you, and you have to be tracking them down. You're paying for a pest control service and a guarantee that if you have an interior problem, we will come in and we will treat that problem for you. No questions asked whenever you call, but there's no reason for me to make an appointment every single month to do your service. They tripled their service. They tripled their capacity. Now they tripled their problem. When it was manageable when you had 50 clients, it's no longer manageable when you have 200 clients. What people fail to understand is mathematical complexity. When you add and you double it, you also add the complexity that comes with it. When you add a technician, you may have added 33% to your staff, but you really added 300 to 400% in complexity because of personalities and things that now can go wrong with 2 technicians. If you've got problems with 2 technicians, imagine what you're going to have with 4 technicians. If you don't fix your infrastructure problems and you don't fix those foundational issues and you don't have a solid foundation to build on, your house is going to crumble when you try to build it. And then it's where I see the chaos. Because it's easy now to do, and you don't foresee that you're going to be doubling this and you're going to be doubling your problems. Ask yourself, how many problems do I have now? And if I double this, do I want double the problems? These are the things that are continuous. Every consultation. You know why consultants don't do small business consulting? They don't do SMB consulting? Is because they have to keep repeating themselves, explaining this to people that don't understand it and don't get it and aren't going to do anything with it. I will charge you $159 an hour. And in 1 hour, I guarantee you that for most people, I will give them so much homework, so many things to fix, and so many things that they will not need to talk to me for the next 3 months until they get that fixed. Because one thing I'm good at is spotting problems. I'm a troubleshooter. I immediately analyze the person. I analyze their skills. I know where their skill sets are going to be. And I immediately go to the pain point of what they can't do and where they're failing. That's what I'm good at. That's what I've always been good at. So why did I build a pest control business? Why do I want to keep building? Because if I keep building it, it's already building itself. And in a year or two, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I'll have a couple $1 million business that I can just sell it. By that time, I would have already built up my consulting business because I'm journaling what I'm doing along the way, showing people that this is how you get from 100,000 to 500,000, where the wall is for most people is at that $500,000 mark. That seems to be the majority of the problem, is because the problems that you have to learn now to manage are different at 500,000 above to $1 million than the problems you were dealing with at 250,000. But 80% of you listening to me are never going to get there because you don't want to, because the skill sets that you have to train. You know, what I tell people is, look, you're always going to have problems and you're always going to have headaches. The difference between the headaches of $500,000 to $1 million is it's just a new headache. You don't deal with the old headaches. Now you have management, and you got to get, basically what a manager is, you need a shock absorber in your business. You need somebody who's young, who can take the hits that you can no longer take, and you pay them to take the hits for you. Kind of like linebackers. The linebacker's job is protect the quarterback. You see? So when you hire a 300-pound, 400-pound linebacker full of muscle that can take hits so that you can focus on the business. I'm hiring linebackers now. You know, Eric's job is to make sure that we're cranking out social media like it's going out of style, that we're cranking out content, that we're have the capability of taking on and streamlining the SOPs. We just had a 4-hour meeting on all the things that we need to work on SOPs wise to streamline it so that we can go from spending an hour on something maybe to 45 minutes to 30 minutes. Because every minute saved at the end of the year, it all adds up. And that is more people that we can take on to do this for. I'm getting good at training Eric how to be a manager. You got to train your people how to be managers. What I train my people on is how to be managers. How to manage. They're not technicians. They're route managers. You see? And they manage everything. They got to manage the client. They got to manage the truck. They got to manage the route. They got to make sure it's clean. They got to manage the inventory. They're responsible for all that because that literally is, I can't supervise them like in a restaurant. So I can't hire technicians that just want to be technicians. I got to have technicians that learn how to manage themselves and manage what they do on a daily basis. And it is my job to supervise that. So like one guy says, well, I booked this client for tomorrow because she said she couldn't today. And I told her I'd be there tomorrow. I said, that customer is 45 minutes away. We're only there once a week. Why did you tell that client that you were? Because she asked me and I felt bad. And I said, no, it's not going to happen. I'm going to call that client back and let them know their service dates has always been Thursdays. It'll be Thursday. I told them that from the beginning in the sales process. She agreed. And that's the reason because she wanted something exclusive that nobody else has. You can't ask for exclusivity and then want it whenever you want it. So I called the client back and said, no, we agreed this. You can't bamboozle my technician and intimidate him into telling him what you want to hear. You're not going to go drive an hour and a half for one customer where we're going to lose our ass because we're charging $99 for that service. It's not going to happen. And this is the hard line that people can't hold, that I tell them, well, you can tell that client, why are you driving 45 minutes for one client when it's not in your territory? Why are you even targeting something that's an hour away, 45 minutes away, when you don't have the capability of managing that correctly? Those are the hard things that people need to look in the mirror that I'm talking about. Efficiency, management, understanding numbers, understanding KPIs, understanding everything that they're supposed. They don't need to learn how to do everything. They have to have an understanding, and they have to learn to ask the right questions. And this is where I'm focusing on in my training, where I find that a lot of the other softwares and a lot of the other training courses, and what I found is what everybody else is not doing because they're not willing to do it. What they rather sell is purple unicorns, sunshine up your tailpipe, okay? And the ideal of something that is never going to happen for you because everybody wants to buy the illusion. I don't sell illusion. I was just on the phone with Paul Bello a week ago for almost 2 hours while he was on a road trip, and he calls me. And we had a conversation about a lot of these things that are happening in our industry where, yes, you're buying all these courses, but you realize you can't apply none of it. My model is designed for the solo guy who wants to jump off a truck, learn how to successfully start up. Stop asking me what chemical am I using. Should I use WP, WD, whatever, 40 to do or bifenthrin or, Alpine WD? Let's get off that conversation. What equipment, a B&G or an Aero? I don't care, bro. Go buy a $29 sprayer for Home Depot and use that. It doesn't matter to me. It's the guy that's listening to me that says, I want to be able to go into business because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. How do I successfully start? And how do I successfully manage? And then how do I successfully hire my first guy? And how do I successfully hire an SEO company? How do I successfully do the marketing for that guy? The problem is 99% of the consultants in the industry aren't willing to touch you. If you can pay the rate for me one time of $159, which is what the price of it one initial is, okay, and you take my advice and you take 80% of it and you implement it within the next 6 months, yes, I said 6 months, you will start seeing that within 6, 7, 8 months. And next year, you're in a totally different situation than you are this year, where you've improved dramatically. You have less stress, less problems, less headaches. But you can't tell me, Frank, how do I do this quickly? I want to scale quickly. That doesn't exist. That's bullshit. I'm just letting you know that's an enormous amount of bullshit that you're getting fed, where you can accelerate the business because you don't have the skill set. You haven't acquired the skill set for selling, for prospecting, for marketing. You have to acquire all that. And the learning curve for somebody who hasn't done it ever is different from the learning curve of the guy who's already done it several times. So again, that's where we're going, folks. My focus is the underdog. My focus has always been the underdog. But the reason I only have 4,000 followers, I only have 4,000 followers on YouTube, I only have 4,000 to 3,000 members, is because I'm selling something else than everybody else is selling. I've always been selling something else. I've been about something else. And the people who follow me know that I'm telling them the truth and they trust me. Because I've built an enormous amount of trust over 10 years. If you read the book by Gary Vaynerchuk, Jab, 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 Right Hook, I've been jabbing for 10 years. I've never sold anything. I've never asked you to buy anything. I've never asked you for anything. I'm not. I'm telling you, this is where we are. If you want what I have, I'll make it affordable. But my time right now, somebody calls me. I get landscape consultations, HOA consultations, city consultations. My fee is $259 an hour. I don't do a city training for any of my city clients that I do safety training and core training and all this. I don't do it for less than 4 hours at $1,000. I know what I know what it's valued at, and I don't do it. I just did a training for 13 people for 1 hour because he asked me about one specific thing. I said, I'll do a course for you. I already have it made, and I'll teach it to your people that answer your questions. And I charge them $300 for 1 hour. If you got corporate training, you want to do corporate training for your people, and you want to do pest control training, non-CEU training on how to do a lot of these things. But here's the question. Do you really want to hear what I have to say, and can you implement it? Because it always comes down to execution, because implementation is one thing, but execution is another. How are you going to execute? Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. If you're saying, I just want to be told, like I got a buddy, I feel sorry for him. The company that he hired to do his SEO and his website and his GMB is the same company that took me for $8,000. Almost $10,000. I said, you got suckered by that company. And the thing is, he knows me. He should have called me first. He didn't. Now they don't even answer his calls. After he paid him like $3,000 for the site. They don't even answer his calls. They're in, by the way, all the groups, and the guy is in all the groups posing as a pest control guy when he's really an ad agency, and they're being pumped everywhere. So I already warned one of my friends in a wildlife group and says, you don't want those people in there. They're going to mess you up, bro. But you notice I've never mentioned the name. I never throw it out there. I never threw them under the bus. I never slung mud. I never did any of that. So now I told him what he needs to do. He implemented it, what he's been taking in my course, and he's been implementing. He's starting to see results in just weeks of taking my course, right? I love this cigar. The flavor of this thing is freaking amazing. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if it... see, can it focus on that? Let me see if it... See the label on that. There you go. Oh, there it is. Probably backwards. Focus back on me here. Put the focus where it belongs. On me. And it's like, made a mistake, made a major blunder. Oh, by the way, guys, if you're doing a GMB, I'm going to give you a freebie here from the course. You don't change your hours to something radical like 24-hour service unless you have somebody answering that phone 24 hours a day live, because Google, it will trigger a manual review. Google will call the business, and when you don't answer, Google will suspend your account and your GMB is suspended. With the amount of free information available on the internet today, on Google, on YouTube, people that don't do any research before they make decisions. It's beyond me. I scratch my head sometimes thinking, why do you do things like that? 99% of the people I talk to aren't willing to pay somebody to tell them what to do or what not to do. I just had a friend of mine, that same guy that I consulted 3 years ago, and I told him, don't do this, don't do that. Now the way he hired his people and the way he decided to pay them and the way he decided to structure it violates state law. And he's in a real pickle right now because it violates Chapter 482. I can't say who it is. I won't say where it is. You're going to have to shoot me to tell you. But in 15-minute conversation, we had to deal with that and say, now you've got a problem because now you got to go to your people and you got to tell them you can no longer do this. A lot of people doing stuff, but hey, man, 17 years of experience when all I dedicate myself to is research, learning, and knowing. Like I said, another friend of mine told me, bro, you know a lot of things about a lot of things, but you haven't monetized any of it. I've never been interested. I was busy on my business. I was busy getting divorced. I was busy battering my mother. I was busy dealing with chronic fatigue. I was busy dealing with a million ailments that I spent a year. And all I've been doing for the last 2 years, folks, honestly, for the last 2 years is working on me. Investing in me. I am the biggest asset I have. I had to invest in me. I had to invest in my health. I had to invest in tranquility. I had to invest in yoga. I had to invest in because the stress of everything all at once got to me. I can tell you about managing your stress. I can tell you about, this is why I'm doing this. I'm wanting people to reduce their stress, their anxiety, their worry, their problems. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fast, but it will work. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to me. I'm taking a different approach now. What I discovered is, listen to this, that it doesn't matter if you own a pest control business, a wildlife business, an exclusion business, a pressure washing business, a soft wash business, if you started up a cleaning business, if you started up a pool cleaning business, a landscaping business, an electrical business, an HVAC business, every home service business has exactly the same problems growing, managing, because why? You have a tech that jumped off a truck and became self-employed. And he doesn't know how to sell. He doesn't know how to market. He doesn't know how to do any type of prospecting. Why? Because he thought that if I just become a really good technician, I will build it and they will come. And what they're finding is that a year, 2 years, 3 years later, they're growing, but the amount of stress and the amount of anxiety and the amount of problems, they have thought about ever doing this. And they can't see themselves how to grow. That's, I just had this guy who was a regional manager. He says, here's the reality, bro. Everything now is on you because, yeah, you manage people, but how much of that hiring did you really do yourself? How much of that did you put out ads to? You had a team of people that did background checks and people that did all of the HR recruiting and people that put out the ads and people that did all the interviews. Now, all of that is on you and you've never done it. Even though you think you managed people you hired, what you did is you got 5 applicants that they qualified for you, and you picked the one that you thought was best. But you never had to do all the back end work. It's totally different, folks. It's totally different. So I hope this helps you. I love you. I want to see the best for you in 2024, as I've always had, since 2014 that I've been doing this. So we're going to be expanding the Pestgeek Podcast to more forums where we're going to be like the Service Geek Podcast, helping because I'm in a lot of groups, and I've been in a lot of groups. I keep telling you guys, in over 100 groups for years, just observing what's happening. The same problems hiring the cleaning lady has than the pest control guy. It's no different. So we're going to be expanding because what I want to do is in the next 10 years is build up my consulting and with Eric, and we're building a marketing company out of our internal marketing company. I tell people, look, I have my own in-house marketing agency. I have a lot of resources. I can share those resources with you at a more reasonable cost than if you hired another agency to do it. But again, I'm only taking on a limited amount of people. I'm taking on so many people a month. I'm taking on so many things we can do. I'm not interested in making this another $1 million business. Mostly I'm doing it for Eric, because Eric has always wanted to put up his own agency, but he's not a sales guy. He's a techie. He's not a marketer. He's a techie. He knows how to do the tech stuff. I said, Eric, I'm the salesman. I'm the mouth. I'm the face. I can do this, but you're going to have to learn a little bit about management and hiring people and subcontracting, because we can't do it all in-house ourselves. We have to hire other companies and other people to do a lot of this. And we are a sales and marketing company that sells these services. Just like I've always been a sales and marketing company that sells pest control. That's the reality. You're hiring me to solve problems for you. You're not hiring me to ask me how much am I charging per hour and how much am I paying somebody per hour. That doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is I get you the results you want. And if I can't get you the results you want with what you can afford to pay, I'll just be honest with you and say, bro, this isn't for you right now. Honestly, I won't even take you on as a client. This is Frank the Pest Geek wishing you a pestacular day and long ashes to you, brothers.